Remember numbers that were brought before about that four ruling religions, 666, slaughter, 666, altar of death, 666. Keep these things in your mind. And then I also want to remind you to go back and read those sermons from 12:24:16 and 12:31:16 regarding that altar that the Great Kohan just spoke about, the altars. That's not my sermon today. We're going to be talking about something we're going to shift gears just a little bit. Exodus 23, let's turn over there real quick. Exodus 23, because we're going to look at verse 13. Familiar scripture nowadays on page 64. It says, "In all things I have said to you, be careful to do them, and make no mention of the name of hinder gods, neither let them be heard from your mouth." I want to show you a definition of 23:13, where that scripture comes from. It means to fight against God. Okay? It means to resist the deity. Remember, Yahweh's not a deity, okay? He's not a God. Yahweh is our Father. It's from 23:14, and it means fighting against God. And it means an opponent of deity. An opponent, someone that's fighting against, struggling against God. Okay, not against Yahweh, but against God. We're going to talk about this calendar, this beautiful calendar we were recently given. Can I have my first slide? I want you to look at a timeline here. 10/28/17, Pastor explained the concept of the new calendar to a couple individuals. He'll be talking. He'll mention more about that. But 10/28/17. The first thing that should really jump out at you right there is two numbers, 28 and 17. Two of Pastor's lot numbers. 11/7/17. Overseer Israel Hawkins approved the first draft of this calendar, this Yahweh's sacred calendar. 12/24/17. Overseer Israel Hawkins approved the second draft. 12/30/17. Overseer Israel Hawkins approved the final draft of this sacred calendar. 1/29/18, the calendar was sent to press. And then on 2/1/18, the printing started on this sacred calendar, and it was put up online, made available at Yahweh.com for the whole world to see. 2/14/18, the printing finished, but the calendar had not yet been collated, stapled, or checked. These things are important to keep in mind. That's why they're being reiterated again. But 2/24/18, they were finally put on tables for the congregation at the house of Yahweh. So keep these in mind, because this is very important. I want you to be writing all those down. In the 16th book of Israel, and by the way, I want you to see where this is from. Now notice the chapter 21, verse 6, 2:16. I think that's what I was trying to show you, if you would let me show the congregation. That's what I wanted to show you, actually. It's on page 216. Okay? From 6:12:16, which is 2:16 backwards, it's a palindrome. Okay, so back to the slide. It says, "You may be seated." Now, it talks about his three lot numbers. He talked about that crown that was presented up here on the stage during the Pentecost. Remember the crown that he was presented? And it had 17 signatures on the back of the crown. And he said there were 17. He said there were 17 total. That was the first number on my lot, if you remember. 17, 28, and 74 were the lot numbers. And I want to remind you what that word lot means. When you think of a lot, I want you to think of inheritance. I want you to think of a portion or a cup that someone's made to drink from. I want you to think of a lot as in a group or a bunch, like a lot of items. okay, and so forth. But think inheritance and things like that. Okay, now, let's see, the next slide. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. I want to show you a timeline here. From the first day that he explained this new calendar to the day it was put on the tables, there was exactly 119 days. And that is 17 weeks exactly to the day. That's his lot number. He just told you. But 119, if you remember, add up all three of his lot numbers, and that's what you get. 119. Okay? You think that's wow? You know, Yahweh is so full of wows. You know, to me, it's like it's just unbelievable the amount of wows you would get. But I want to show you something about the day that the calendar was put up online. It was put up on 2/1/18 on the Roman calendar, and it means to remove, to displace. Now remember, the day before there was a blood moon on 1/31/18. There was a blood moon. That last day of the House of Yahweh's calendar, the calendar we had that year had that first Roman month. It ended on the 31st, and there was a blood moon. And then Yahweh's calendar took over, the sacred calendar. And it means to remove, to move away, to thrust away. In other words, to shuck it out, get rid of it. Okay? Get away from us. Get away from me. I never knew you. And it means to loose. It means to loose. Now, in the Greek it means straightness and uprightness. Notice this. Straight as with complete justice, without deviation. This word is used only one time in Hebrews 1:8, and that's where it talks about a scepter of righteousness is the scepter of his kingdom. Okay? I want you to think about that word scepter or rod or branch. It means it means an impartial and righteous government. And it's from this word here, Greek ethos. It's 2:1:17, and it means straight. Straight of direction as opposed to crooked. You know, the crooked paths that they have made for everyone in this world. There's somebody responsible for making these crooked paths straight. Okay? Well, Yahweh's doing it with Yahshua, our high priest, but he's using a man on this earth. Okay? Now I want you to get this. This root correlates to the Old Testament Yasar on word number 3474. Now this is where it really gets interesting. You should be familiar with this word. 3474. Well, again, here we go again. You know, 34. What occurred in 34? Well, we had a man born to straighten this world out. And then 74 is one of his lot numbers, right? And it means to be smooth, to be straight or right, agreeable, to fix straight. Agreeable, make smooth, pleasing, pleased, smooth, straight. In an ethical sense, to be pleasing and agreeable and right, straightforward, upright. It's used in Isaiah 45:2. Okay, and we're going to go there in a minute. But here's the word right here. Okay, it's used in these various forms, but here it is right here. Okay, the one we're looking at, 3474. 3474. Where does that come from? I remember explaining this before. It comes from this word here, actually, too. 3484. Yeshurun. Yeshurun, you know, Isaiah 44:2, my beloved Israel. Okay? And Yeshurun means upright one. 34, the year the witness was born. 84, how old is he this year? 84. It's used in Isaiah 44. Let's turn over to Isaiah 44 real quick. Isaiah 44. We're going to look at verse, I'll give you a page number, 558. Verse 26, it says, I am the one, Yahweh says, I am the one who carries out the word of his servant and fulfills the plan of his messenger. The one saying of Jerusalem, she shall be inhabited, and of the cities of Yahweh they shall be built, and her ruins I will restore. The one saying to the watery deep, be dry, and your streams I will dry up. The one saying for uprightness, the one being my shepherd, who will accomplish all my purpose, who will say to Jerusalem, you shall be rebuilt, and to the temple your foundation shall be laid. Chapter 45. Remember, the great Kohan Yehuda explained these to you, what Cyrus meant. Remember that? This is what Yahweh says to his anointed for uprightness, whom I have taken by his right hand to subdue nations before him. Yes, the strength of kings I will reveal, to open the doors before him, and the gates will not be shut. Now listen here. I will go before you, and those who are being honored, sitting right here in front of me right now, and everyone that's following Israel Hawkins and following the teachings, and those who are being honored, I will make their way straight. There's that word. Look, side note B. See side note B, the number? 3474. To be straight or even, right, pleasant, fit, be right, be straight, be upright. The upright one, Yeshurun. Turn over to Galatians chapter 4 now. Can you go to the next slide, please? Next slide. Galatians chapter 4. Because there's a counterfeit out there we need to talk about. Now, by the way, I need to remember 10:28:17. Pastor gave this assignment. Notice here, 28:17. It means an heir, apportioned inheritance by the casting of lots. Okay? Write that down, 28:17. Okay? From 28:18, apportioned inheritance by the casting of lots. You need to remember that, inheritance, because look in Galatians 4:1, the appointed time, the heirs of Yahweh. The great apostle says, but I say, as long as the heir is an infant, he's no longer different. He's no different than a slave, although he is to be ruler of all. But he's under the subjection of teachers and office holders until the time appointed by the Father. So we also, when we were infants, we were enslaved under the elements of the world. Now look on the footnote under elements. You can see it up on the screen if you don't have a book of Yahweh. It means a small upright rod. Small upright rod? An obelisk? Or is that talking about a small upright branch rod named Yisrael Hawkins? Well, we'll see, right? You can go to my next slide real quick. Because that word branch in Isaiah 11:1, where he says a branch will grow from his roots, you see that? It also means rod. Now here, though, go to the next slide, please. Back to this footnote in Galatians, because it's talking about they're talking about the pole, the sacred pole that they used to set their feasts. Elements means a small upright rod, especially the gnomon of the sundial or the shadow thrown by it. The gnomon of the sundial. Can you go to my next slide? Remember the gnomon? 666. There's the gnomon. See the shadow it casts when the sun hits it? To tell the time, not just the time of the day, but the time of the year, the solstices and equinoxes. Well, do we really need that one to know? Who's the one that knows it all? Let's go to the next slide. It says that word gnomon means one who knows or examines. Well, remember, Yahweh knows the heart. Yahweh examines us, right? And who does he use? Go to my next slide. Pastor already told you, I know it all. I'm the one who knows. And the reason in these quotes that you're seeing up here, I'm just going to read the pertinent portions. First one says, and that's the reason we know there's going to be a showdown. It's already started. The Pope has boasted that, I'm a hypocrite and I'm saying I know it all. And I do. Yahweh is my Father. That may be the only truth that man has ever told. And the next quote says, now he denies them and he's talking about the Pope, he denies them and he's making slurring remarks against the man who knows it all, as he puts it. The one who says he knows it all. Well, I can say that because my high priest, Yahshua Messiah, does know it all and Yahweh knows it all. Praise Yahweh. Now, look back at the side note in Galatians. Next slide, please. Notice it shows the gnomon are the shadows thrown by the gnomon. The gnomon of the sundial or the shadow thrown by it. Well, that word shadow, can you go to the next slide? Should remind you of Psalm 91. Okay? And what is the shadow of Yahweh? Yeah, the keeping of the feast. Right? And remember? Keeping feasts and Sabbaths correctly? Y'all remember that, right? And remember, Yahweh's eyes and his heart will be here with us, 2 Chronicles 7:16, examining those that come. Okay? Examining us, knowing whether we're free of leaven or not. Colossians 2:17. Okay, remember. And notice it says, he will cover you with his feathers in verse 4, and under his wings will you trust. You know that word 3484, if you remember, it means opinion. It's from Psalm 91:4. Remember, it means wings. Wings, 3484, Yeshurun, remember? Well, if you don't, go to the next slide. Remember the Yahmatria, under your shadow, 3484, remember Yeshurun? Under your shadow, the one that teaches us to keep the feast, the one that knows it all, the small upright rod, right? The small lowly oakie that's going to be made into thousands very soon. Isaiah 60:22. That's how many years since creation, by the way. Now, I don't want to miss anything. I sometimes get rushed, but let me. Now, are you ready for something really interesting? Go to the next slide. From the time Pastor was born to the day that calendar went online was 30,474 days. Drop the zero. 3474, remember? Upright. The upright one. Yeshurun. The one that we serve together with. Right? Now, I didn't have time to get into the lots today and the inheritance that the apostle was talking about, but be ready because the prophecy of Zechariah is going to be fulfilled. You see that number? The prophecy of Zechariah 2018. There's a new world ahead. 2018. Be ready. Wait till you learn more about this inheritance that Yahweh has in store, the world and the universe that he's fixing to give his saints. Are you ready? Well, praise Yahweh.